There's a certain kind of person who doesn't raise their voice even when everything around them seems to be crumbling. They don't argue back. They don't panic when others are spiraling. They don't rush to defend themselves or prove they're right. They just breathe. And while everyone else is scrambling to make sense of the chaos, to control what can't be controlled, they quietly watch like someone who's already been through this storm before and knows exactly how it ends. Maybe you know someone like this. Maybe it's you. The kind of person who feels like stillness itself has wrapped around them, like they've discovered some secret about life that the rest of us are still searching for. No matter what happens, no matter how loud the world gets, they remain composed, steady, grounded, almost untouchable, in a way that feels both calming and mysterious at the same time. And if you've ever wondered why some people can stay so calm while others fall apart at the smallest inconvenience, the answer is far deeper and more complex than you might think. Because calmness, real calmness, isn't the absence of emotion. It's not about not feeling things. It's what happens when emotion meets understanding, when feeling meets wisdom, when chaos meets someone who's learned not to add fuel to it. It's not that calm people don't feel things deeply. They do. Sometimes they feel things more intensely than anyone else in the room. They just don't react in the same way anymore. They've learned something that most people spend their entire lives trying to figure out. Once you've seen enough, once you've hurt enough, once you've realized that panic doesn't solve anything and that rushing doesn't speed up healing, you stop fighting storms that can't be controlled. You learn to stand still in the rain instead of running from it. You learn to let the waves crash without letting them pull you under. That's the psychology of calm people. They weren't born this way. Nobody is. They became this way through experience, through pain, through countless moments where reacting didn't help and staying still did. See, people who are always calm usually went through phases where they weren't calm at all. They were overthinkers once. They cared too much about everything. They tried to control situations that couldn't be controlled, fix people who didn't want to be fixed, please everyone even when it meant losing themselves. And every single time they tried, they learned the same exhausting lesson: that life doesn't bend to your will no matter how hard you push against it. That some things simply can't be forced. That resistance often creates more suffering than acceptance ever could. At some point, they stopped trying to control the ocean and instead learned to surf it. That's what calm really is. Not indifference, not numbness, not pretending everything's fine when it's not. It's emotional wisdom. It's knowing which battles deserve your energy and which ones are just distractions disguised as emergencies. Psychologists often describe this as emotional regulation, but that term doesn't quite capture the soul of it, the depth of what's actually happening inside someone who's learned to stay calm. It's not just about suppressing emotion or putting on a brave face or pretending you don't care. It's about understanding emotion so deeply, so completely, that it no longer has control over you. Calm people aren't emotionless robots walking through life disconnected from reality. They're emotionally fluent. They've learned the language of their own mind. They can feel anger without exploding into rage. They can feel sadness without drowning in despair. They can sit with uncertainty without losing their balance or spiraling into anxiety. Because somewhere inside their mind, there's a small voice that whispers the same truth over and over. This too will pass. And that voice isn't blind optimism or toxic positivity or denial. It's memory. It's the accumulated wisdom of every storm they've already survived. They've lived through enough to know that even the worst moments eventually fade, that panic doesn't speed up healing, and that peace isn't found in controlling everything around you, but in accepting what you cannot change. Most people completely misunderstand calm people. They think calm means cold, detached, unfeeling, like there's something missing inside them. But in truth, it often means the opposite. It often means deeply compassionate. Calm people are usually the ones who can hold space for others when everyone else is panicking. They're the ones who can look at someone falling apart and say it's okay, and actually mean it. Not because they don't care about the situation, but because they know from experience that chaos isn't permanent, that everything eventually settles, that sometimes the most helpful thing you can do is simply be still while others find their footing again. There's a kind of quiet strength in that, a strength most people never recognize because it doesn't announce itself. It's the strength of restraint, of knowing that not every battle deserves your energy, not every insult deserves a reply, not every storm deserves your fear, and not every emotion deserves immediate expression. It's the strength of choosing peace even when every instinct in your body wants to fight back. But let's go deeper into the psychology of this. Why do some people reach this state of calmness while others constantly find themselves overwhelmed, reactive, unable to find peace even in quiet moments? The answer lies partly in a small almond-shaped part of the brain called the amygdala, which serves as the center of fear and emotional response. In people who've practiced mindfulness over years, or who've been through emotionally intense experiences that forced them to learn regulation, the amygdala becomes more balanced in how it responds to perceived threats. It still signals danger when necessary. That's its job, but it no longer hijacks their entire nervous system the way it once did. Their prefrontal cortex, the rational thinking part of the brain that helps with decision-making and impulse control, has learned to step in before the emotional reaction takes over completely. In other words, calm people have somehow trained their minds to create a pause between feeling something and reacting to it. That pause, that tiny invisible gap, is their superpower. It's why in the middle of an argument they can hear something hurtful and not immediately strike back with equal force. It's why they can sit in uncertainty without needing to fill every silence with words or plans or solutions. It's why when the world around them is loud and chaotic and everyone's talking over each other, they can still hear themselves think. That pause, that moment of stillness between stimulus and response, is where all their wisdom lives. But here's what's truly fascinating about this. Calm people often weren't taught to be this way through books or therapy or meditation retreats. Many of them learned it the hard way, through lived experience, through heartbreak that shattered them, through disappointment that crushed their expectations, through moments where they realized that reacting quickly, emotionally, defensively, almost always made things worse instead of better. At some point in their journey, they simply got tired of their own chaos. They got tired of overreacting and then regretting. They got tired of saying things they didn't mean. They got tired of apologizing, explaining, defending themselves over and over. They reached a point where peace became more important than being right, where silence became more valuable than having the last word. So now, when tension rises in a room, they choose silence over shouting. When someone tries to provoke them, they choose to breathe instead of taking the bait. When something goes wrong, they choose to let go instead of holding grudges that only burn them from the inside out. And yet, and this is important to understand, that calmness isn't always easy for them. It's not effortless, because sometimes calm people carry storms inside that no one else can see. They look peaceful on the surface, but their calm is hard-earned, forged through pain and practice, not through having an easy life or never experiencing hardship. It's the kind of calm that's been built through crying alone in private, through questioning their own worth, through feeling unseen and misunderstood by people they loved, and through all of that, they discovered something crucial. That peace isn't a reward you get for having a perfect life. It's a discipline you build when you realize that emotional chaos doesn't serve you anymore, that reacting to everything makes you a prisoner of everything, that the calmer you are, the freer you become. That's why people who are always calm tend to think differently than most. They're not driven by impulse or emotion, or the need to be validated by others. They're guided by perspective, by the bigger picture, by what actually matters in the long run. They don't chase external validation because they've learned that other people's opinions are too unstable to build your peace on. They chase meaning instead. They chase understanding. They don't need to prove they're right in every situation because they genuinely rather understand what's true than win an argument. Because deep down, often unconsciously, they've realized something that most people never fully grasp. That the calmer you stay, the clearer you see. That peace isn't weakness, it's the ultimate form of strength. In psychology, there's something called response flexibility. It's the ability to choose your response rather than letting your response choose you, rather than being controlled by whatever emotion hits you first. That's what calm people have mastered, often without even realizing they've mastered it. They don't suppress their emotions or pretend they don't feel things. They feel everything. They just channel it differently. They let the emotional energy move through their body without letting it control their actions or destroy their relationships. That's why they're often the ones who seem so composed during a crisis. The ones everyone turns to when things fall apart. But then they might break down quietly afterward when no one's watching. Not because they were pretending the whole time, but because they understand timing. They know there's a time to feel and a time to act. A time to process emotion privately and a time to release it. A time to be strong for others and a time to let yourself fall apart. Their calmness isn't a mask they put on to hide who they really are. It's an internal compass that keeps them aligned with their values no matter how strong the winds of circumstance get. And if you look closer at calm people, you'll start noticing another pattern. They don't just react differently to life. They see differently. They perceive the world through a completely different lens. While most people see chaos and disorder, calm people see patterns and rhythms. While most people see problems, they see lessons waiting to be learned. While most people see endings and failures, they see beginnings disguised as change, opportunities hidden inside loss. They've somehow trained their perception to zoom out, to look at the bigger picture, instead of getting lost in the intensity of the present moment. That's what gives them their balance. That's why they can lose something important, something they worked hard for, and still manage to say with genuine acceptance, maybe this was meant to happen, maybe something better is coming. And it's not denial, it's not toxic positivity, it's perspective that's been earned through experience, through surviving enough losses to know that life continues even after the things that once felt unbearable. The calm person you see sitting quietly in the corner of the room while everyone else is talking loudly, they've probably lived through things that once completely broke them. They've probably experienced pain that shattered their old understanding of the world. They just learned over time not to live inside that brokenness anymore. They learned that staying broken doesn't honour what they survived. They've realised through years of practice that when you stop trying to control the uncontrollable, when you release your grip on outcomes you can't determine, you create space inside yourself. And that space, that inner spaciousness, is where peace begins to grow. Think about that the next time you encounter someone who never seems rattled by anything. They're not detached from life or living in some fantasy where nothing matters. They're just anchored deeper in reality than most people. They've stopped being tossed around violently by every wave because they've somehow become the ocean itself, vast and deep and capable of containing everything without being destroyed by it. Their calmness is not apathy or indifference. It's profound understanding. It's the understanding that not every emotion that arises in you deserves to be expressed outwardly. Not every thought that crosses your mind deserves your attention or belief. Not every situation that presents itself deserves your precious energy. Because energy, to calm people, is sacred. It's not unlimited. It's not something to be thrown around carelessly. They've learned to spend it wisely, investing it only in things that build rather than break, in things that create rather than destroy. They've witnessed firsthand how easily chaos can drain a person's life force, how unnecessary drama can completely destroy inner peace, how small reactions to small things can snowball into massive regrets. So they choose differently now. They choose consciously. When someone insults them or tries to provoke them, they pause before responding. When someone misunderstands them or misrepresents what they said, they take a breath and explain calmly if it seems worth the effort, and they simply walk away if it doesn't. When life gets heavy and circumstances pile up, they don't collapse under the weight. They lean on faith, on patience, on the perspective that time always provides if you give it space to work. And that's what makes calm people so magnetic to others, why people are drawn to their energy even if they can't articulate why. It's not that calm people have all the answers to life's questions. It's that they've stopped needing to have all the answers. They've made peace with uncertainty. They've accepted that not knowing is part of being human. And in a world absolutely obsessed with control, with having everything figured out, with appearing perfect and put together, that kind of peace is real power. Because while most people are constantly fighting exhausting battles in their minds, endlessly replaying conversations, overthinking every interaction, drowning in regret and worry, calm people have discovered that silence can communicate more than 1,000 words ever could. That not every emotion needs a witness or an audience. That sometimes the greatest display of strength is simply not reacting, simply choosing to remain still when everything in you wants to fight back. Because calmness is not emptiness. It's fullness without noise. It's power without aggression. It's emotion without chaos. It's strength that doesn't need to prove itself.